Welcome to YOUREDDIT TTS. I was molested by a family friend, and have never dealt with it. When I was around 4 or 5 years old, I was coming home from staying the weekend with my grandmother. When I got home, I found out my parents let a friend of theirs stay with us for a little while. Let's call him M. As far as I knew, M was a very nice guy. He loved playing with me and my brother, and would go out and meditate by the beach nearby every day. I don't know why, or how long M stayed with us, but it was probably about 2 weeks, give or take a few days. I loved sleeping on the sofa because I usually had to share a bed with my sister because my parents couldn't afford another one. One night I went and slept on one of the 2 sofas as usual. But the only thing was M was sleeping on the other sofa. As a young idiot, I didn't mind. So I watched TV for a bit until I eventually fell asleep. I woke up and could barely see anything, as it was pitch black, but I could feel something happening to me. I didn't know what was going on, but I did know I didn't like it. If I remember correctly, I asked him to stop, but of course he didn't listen. I then turned over so he couldn't continue doing whatever it was. After that I just fell back asleep. Not long after, I awoke to the same thing happening. I realized what he was doing to my privates, but I didn't understand why. I eventually sat up and he walked back to the other sofa and laid down as if nothing had happened. I then walked to the room my sister was sleeping in, and fell asleep with her. The next night I convinced my brother, 6 or 7 years old, to sleep with me on the sofa so M wouldn't mess with me again. I didn't tell him why I wanted him to sleep with me, I just begged him to. Apparently he got up and went to his room in the middle of the night, because I awoke to the same thing as the previous night. All I could see was M unzipping my pants. I wore pants to sleep. I didn't know what to do. I just wanted to sleep, so similarly to the night before, I turned over and fell back to sleep, only to wake up once again to M still there messing with me. I never got up that night, and I don't remember why. I think it happened once more before I just started sleeping with my sister. Fast forward to when M was finally gone, I overheard my mother talking to someone on the phone saying how she woke up with her pants unzipped with M messing with her too. But the thing is, she fucking laughed it off. Lol, you know, casual M. After hearing that, I told myself it was just normal. This happens to everyone. There's a few more less important details, so we'll just skip them for now. But, a few years later, my mother and I were visiting my grandmother, and my mother was telling my grandmother how M chased her down the street yelling that he was a child molester. He was also naked, so he was eventually arrested, but I'm not sure how long he got, or if he's even still locked up. I've never told anyone, not even my mother. I would, but on a couple different occasions she talked about how adults come forward and talk about how they were molested. She said they should have said something sooner, and that it didn't matter anymore. I was in denial for a good 8 years before I finally came to terms with what happened to me, and that it was not normal. So telling her is not an option at all. I have never cried over it, and I have not dealt with how it has affected me. It makes me sad that I'll always question relationships between siblings, parents, and children, and pretty much any relationship between an adult and a child. I also have a hard time telling the difference between innocent bonding and perverted grooming. I don't know how to make these thoughts stop. All men intimidate me, including my stepfather. I feel bad because he's a great man, and I love him dearly, but sometimes I have those pesky intrusive thoughts. I'm so sorry for how messy and unstructured this all was, and I want to thank you for reading this. Even if no one does, this has been a huge weight lifted off my chest. My brother is friends with my molester even after I told him. I was 7 when my oldest brother's best friend started molesting me. He'd make me touch his DCK, undress for him, come on me, a multitude of other things that I don't want to get too much into detail about. What hurts more than anything, what keeps me awake thinking about it, is the fact that my brother knows what happened and is still friends with him and has told me he doesn't believe me. He always says that he believes that something happened but that it was not his beloved best friend who did so. He says he thinks that I substituted him with a different person. I cruelly think about this as well. My brother goes such lengths not to believe me that he theorizes things like this, but I know this isn't true. He did it to me for years. I remember clearly the weird ginger teen who masturbated on my mother's bed while she was at work to show me how to jack him off properly. I remember how he would pretend to be playing with me and take me in another room of my house when no one was paying attention to do stuff to me. My brother was always supposed to be watching me when these events occurred. He was the oldest, being 12 years older than me. He was supposed to be the responsible brother, but in reality he wasn't, at all. In fact, he was so irresponsible that one of my other siblings gave me head trauma and I had a seizure when my mom had worked a night shift and he was supposed to be watching us. I didn't tell anyone until I was 10 when he had finally went away to join the military. It was one of the most relieving days of my life because I knew he couldn't do anything to me then. Before this I had kept quiet because he had threatened to set a grenade off in our house, and yes, this sounds extremely dumb, but I was 7 and he had what I thought was proof to back his words with a hollowed out grenade he would take to our house. He did a lot of things like that, including pointing a gun to my somewhat older sibling's face. I had 5 brothers, 2 of which were near my age. What happened after this was a nightmare, a whole FCKING nightmare. My mother believed me instantly, because she had already suspected something was going on and asked me once, but I lied because he had been only a room away and was secretly listening in. I love my mother for never doubting my word. She took me to the police station and we told them. They lied to our face and said that the statute of limitations prevented them from doing anything and turned us away. This was a few years before Google was readily available and we believed them. I felt numb after that, and when I told my oldest brother at my mom's request, Jay was the hardest thing I ever had to deal with and still deal with all the time. He was my big brother, he was supposed to protect me, yet, here he was saying I was making it up, and then later on down the road saying I imagined that it was him and someone else had done it. I love my brother a lot, but this has prevented me from getting close to him anymore. I still enjoy seeing him and talking to him, but I'm not sure if I can ever truly get over this. This is the end, seeing as this has gotten fairly long, but in closing, I know exactly where my molester lives, I know who his wife is, and I know where he works, simply because it's a small town. But unknowing, I've set up plenty of measures to make sure I never run into him ever, and also I have told friends I have who are friends with him about what has happened and cut ties with some for choosing to remain friends with him. I wish to have no one else in my life who is friends with him, especially those who tried to get us in the same room together saying it would be fine. I don't know what I'm doing here, posting this, but I'm just tired of keeping it in all the time and not talking about it with anyone. It eats me up every day, and using this platform to anonymously talk about it is a godsend. Thanks, Reddit. When I was about 8 or 9, I tried stabbing my family members. I was very crazy as a kid, or just very stupid, actually both. So I was on my beanbag playing my Sims Kingdom on the Wii, and I had been playing for hours and had got a lot of progress done. I don't think I saved my game for a long while, so when my sister decided it would be funny to turn off my Wii while I was playing and run upstairs, dumb little kid me decided to dart to the kitchen and get a nice serrated knife and chase her upstairs and almost into her bedroom until the door was literally slammed in my face. Now the reason I did this was because I thought I had just lost all my progress because she turned off my Wii, and I'm not trying to justify it's okay to try stab family members over video games progress or stab anyone in general, but I was very little and dumb. So after getting the bedroom door slammed in my face, I heard 2 more family members who were already in there. Luckily for them, the door had a lock and I couldn't get in. Which is why I then started sliding the knife under the gap of the door like a serial killer, screaming and laughing at the top of my little kid lungs. They also were screaming the whole time. After I gave up and tried to run away from home, my mom, who had heard of my attempted murder on my sister and others, decided to lock me in my own bedroom closet for hours until it was time for dinner. I don't remember if I actually lost my progress or not, but I was up on the rise gamer, so yeah, I literally turned into the devil and tried to stab half my family. That probably was a very awkward dinner as well. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment and subscribe.